I walked into my kitchen and found another woman in my sweatshirt, and my daughter called her Mommy too, like I never existed. Hey there. Thanks for clicking on today's story. Wherever you are right now, maybe you're cooking, walking, or just trying to breathe through a hard day, take a moment. This one's worth hearing. Today, I'm bringing you a story about a mother who gave everything and then watched it all fall apart. Have you ever felt invisible in your own home? Ever watched someone you love choose someone else over you? If you've been there, or if you've ever wondered how anyone survives that, stay with me. Let's see how Evelyn finds her way back, piece by piece. And if you enjoy stories that hit a little deeper, I hope you'll subscribe. It means the world and keeps this little corner of honesty going. Let's begin.
I used to think if I just worked hard enough, stayed steady enough, and sacrificed quietly enough, everything would hold together. Turns out, sometimes the glue that holds a family isn't love, it's silence. And when that silence cracks, what's underneath is uglier than you ever imagined. My name is Evelyn Drake. I'm 37. I'm a lead systems engineer at a renewable energy firm in Oregon. Solar grids, micro-hydro installations, backup fail-safe generators. I live in voltage and math. I've worked damn hard to get here. And for a long time, I thought that was enough. I have a daughter, Celeste, 16, brilliant, sarcastic, and born with more fire in her bones than I ever had at that age. She's the kind of kid who writes her own rules and rarely asks permission. And I have a husband. Had, technically, Grant Drake, who used to be a physics professor until the school cut his department during budget season. That was 4 years ago. He said he'd write a book, maybe start a podcast. Mostly, he drank coffee and read Reddit. So yes, I was the breadwinner, the fixer, the one who paid for the braces, the groceries, the house, and I didn't mind. I loved them. That's what you do, right? You keep showing up, you patch the roof, you rewire the kitchen, you buy the birthday cake and drive the late-night ER visits and balance your laptop on one knee while folding laundry with the other. You mother. And for a while, it worked. We weren't perfect, but we weren't broken, or so I thought. Everything unraveled on a Tuesday. I was at a site inspection near Mount Hood. We'd just had a breakthrough with battery storage, and I was excited, buzzing even. I called home to tell Grant the news, and he didn't answer. Not weird. Then I tried Celeste, straight to voicemail. That's when I had this odd little pang in my gut. Nothing specific, just off. I drove home early, skipping the team lunch, and when I pulled into our driveway, I saw it. A strange black SUV parked crooked near the garage, the kind with California plates and designer decals on the windshield. At first, I thought it was one of Celeste's friends, maybe some kid visiting from college. But as I walked into the house, the first thing I noticed was the smell, like lilac perfume and cologne I didn't recognize. The second thing? Laughter. And not just any laughter. Grant's, low and relaxed, the way he hadn't laughed around me in years. And Celeste's, giggling, bright, like she was finally in on some joke I hadn't been told. I stepped into the kitchen, and there she was. A woman. Mid-30s, long caramel hair, draped in some gauzy sweater that looked like it cost more than my mortgage payment. She had her hand on Grant's arm, her smile wide and familiar. Too familiar. Celeste was sitting at the counter, legs crossed, phone out, chatting like this was the most normal Tuesday of her life. I didn't yell, I didn't scream, I just froze. Grant turned, startled. "Oh, Ev, you're home early." He said it like I'd just interrupted a book club. I looked at Celeste, and she gave me this look, half guilt, half annoyance, like I was embarrassing her in front of company. The woman smiled. "You must be Evelyn. I've heard so much about you." And that's when I knew. I wasn't the woman of this house anymore. I was the guest. And the worst part? My daughter already knew. I wish I could tell you I said something cutting, that I stood my ground, tossed her perfume-soaked scarf on the floor, and told them both to get out. But the truth is, I just stood there, gripping the strap of my work bag so tightly it cut into my shoulder. My own home felt alien, like I had walked into someone else's memory. Grant moved first. He casually stepped between me and the other woman, like he was diffusing tension between two dinner guests. "Evelyn, this is Sierra. We've been meaning to talk to you." Talk to me? As if this wasn't already a monologue written behind my back. Sierra smiled, sympathetic in the way only smug people can be. "I'm not here to cause problems. This just sort of happened. Sometimes people change, you know?" I looked to Celeste, praying she'd say something, tell me this was a mistake, that she hadn't known. But she didn't look at me. She stayed glued to her phone, thumbs tapping nervously, avoiding eye contact like it was contagious. "Celeste," I said. My voice sounded foreign to my own ears. "How long have you known about this?" She didn't answer right away. When she did, it was so soft I almost didn't hear it. "A while." I swear my heart cracked, actually cracked, like glass under a slow, deliberate weight. I turned and walked out the door without another word. I didn't even take off my boots. I slept in the back of my car that night. Not because I didn't have options. My friend Rachel would have opened her door without asking questions. My sister and Ben would have driven 3 hours just to sit with me. But I needed stillness. No pity, no anger, just quiet. It rained. Of course it rained. Oregon in April is never merciful. My windshield fogged with the weight of my own breath, and I sat curled in the passenger seat, staring at the tiny raindrops as they trembled down the glass like they were afraid to fall. By morning, I was soaked in something heavier than rain: disbelief. 17 years with Grant, a life built on routines and sacrifices and shared passwords. A daughter I loved more fiercely than anything in this world. And I was the stranger, the last one to know? The next few days were a blur of mechanical survival. I went to work, I presented at a board meeting, I signed off on a new turbine design. I smiled when people said I looked tired and joked that it was just the weather. But at home, well, I wasn't home anymore. I went back only once, to pack a bag. Grant was out. Sierra's jacket was hanging on my coat hook. Celeste was upstairs. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't even leave a note. I took a duffel of clothes, my laptop, my toolbox, and my wedding ring. I dropped the ring into the junk drawer on my way out, right next to a half-dead flashlight and the coupons we never used. A week later, the real fracture happened. Rachel, my best friend since college, called me at 7 really high a.m. on a Saturday. She never calls that early unless someone's in a ditch or having a baby. "You're going to want to see this," she said. "Check Sierra's Instagram." Now, I hadn't even known Sierra had an Instagram. I didn't follow her, but I looked it up. There it was, a carousel of photos, Grant and Sierra smiling at the coast, wine glasses raised. A picture of Celeste sandwiched between them, grinning like it was Christmas. The caption? "Weekend reset with my real ones, grateful for second chances and soul families." Soul families? I could handle betrayal. I could even handle humiliation, but being replaced in my own daughter's heart? That nearly broke me. That's when the rage came. And with it, clarity. They weren't going to erase me. Not legally, not emotionally, not without a fight. I met with Rachel that afternoon. She's a lawyer, family law, mostly divorce. She's seen things I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. But she's also brilliant and brutal when she needs to be. We sat across from each other at a cafe, two women who had once shared dorm rooms and tequila shots, now trading war plans over oat lattes. "I want to file," I said. Rachel didn't blink. "Good. We'll start with an emergency motion to freeze shared assets, and you're taking back that house." "I don't want the house," I said quietly. "I want my daughter." That made her pause. She looked at me, eyebrows pinched. "Do you think she'll choose you?" I didn't have an answer. And that was the scariest part of all. Because for the first time since Celeste was born, I wasn't sure I still knew her. The girl who once slept curled against my chest like a kitten had become someone who smiled for photos beside the woman who took everything from me. That night, I went back to my rented apartment, just a one-bedroom above a bookstore downtown, and stood staring at the unopened suitcase on the floor. I took a breath. Then I pulled out my phone and I did something I hadn't done in days. I texted Celeste. Me. I miss you. Me. I'm not angry, I just miss you. Me. Can we talk soon? The message sat unread for 17 hours. When she finally replied, it was one word. Celeste. Maybe. The text from Celeste haunted me. Maybe. Not yes, not no. Just a word with too much distance and not enough hope. I stared at it for days, replaying every moment I could remember. Her first piano recital, the day she broke her collarbone falling off her bike, the way she used to call me mommy when she was little, dragging the syllables like a lullaby. Now she barely called me anything at all. 2 weeks later, the court granted the asset freeze. Grant showed up at my temporary office, yes, my office, not home, with a passive-aggressive smirk like the law was just another mild inconvenience. "You didn't need to go nuclear, Ev," he said. "We could have worked this out." "I offered to talk," I said, not looking up from my laptop. "You offered me a stranger in my kitchen." He opened his mouth like he was going to counter, but then just exhaled and leaned against the doorframe. "She makes me feel seen," he said. That sentence, God, like I was some ghost that wandered around the house stacking dishes and earning salaries, like my visibility depended on him noticing me. "You know what's funny?" I said, finally closing the screen. "You had a woman who loved you when you were broke, lost, and hiding from your own potential. You had a daughter who adored you for being present, not perfect, and you threw that away for someone who came along when everything was easy." "You're angry." "No, I'm disappointed. That's worse." He left without another word. I shut the door, locked it, and sat down slowly, as if the weight of my disappointment was an actual thing pressing on my chest. Later that night, I found myself parked in front of the old house. I don't know why I went. I wasn't planning to go in. I just wanted to see it. Or maybe see her. The porch light was on. The front window glowed warm, soft yellow spilling out into the front yard. And then I saw her, Sierra, in my kitchen, dancing barefoot in one of my oversized sweatshirts, holding a glass of wine. And then Celeste walked in. She handed Sierra a bowl of popcorn. They laughed at something on the screen, and for a second, it looked so real, so domestic. I pressed my forehead to the steering wheel and stayed there until my eyes stopped burning. That night, I dreamt I was knocking on my own front door, and no one would let me in. The next morning, I got a message from Celeste. "Celeste, can we meet?" I didn't reply right away. I stared at Nante for nearly 10 minutes, unsure if they was a trap or a turning point. Me, sure, name the time and place. She suggested the cafe 2 blocks from her school, neutral ground. When I walked in, she was already there, hoodie pulled up, earbuds dangling from her collar, a half-drunk chai latte between her palms. She looked up, but didn't smile. I sat down, nervous as hell. She didn't look angry. She didn't look sad. She just looked tired, like life had gotten heavier than she was ready for. "I didn't want to pick sides," she said quietly. I waited. "But Dad said you were done with us, that you were tired of being the one who held everything up." I blinked. I never said that. She shrugged. "It made sense, though. You were always gone, working, traveling, fixing stuff." "I was keeping everything together, Celeste. The mortgage, the tuition, the doctor bills." "I know," she cut me off, "but it didn't feel like you were with us. You were always somewhere else." That landed. Because the truth is, she wasn't wrong. There were nights I worked past dinner. There were weekends I brought home blueprints instead of pizza. I'd skipped movie nights for midnight deadlines. I'd said, "Not now, sweetheart," more times than I could count. And Grant? He was always there, watching her soccer games, taking her for milkshakes, playing the role I thought I was earning by doing everything else. And then Sierra came in, bubbly, available, full of compliments and banana bread. No deadlines, no work stress, just attention. It wasn't fair, but it made sense. "I don't hate you," she said, eyes still on the table. "I was just confused and angry. You were never around, and then suddenly you were gone completely. I didn't want to fight your father in front of you. I didn't want to make you choose. You didn't give me a chance to." We sat in silence. Outside, someone walked a dog in a yellow raincoat. The sky was trying to snow, but mostly failing. Finally, she looked at me. "Is it true you're fighting for the house?" I nodded. "Why? You said you didn't even want to go back." "I don't," I said, "but I'm not going to let someone else take what I built while pretending I never existed." That hit her. I could see it. The same realization I'd had weeks before. I wasn't angry about losing a building. I was angry about being erased. She bit her lip. "What happens if I want to come live with you?" I swallowed. "You'll always have a place with me. Always. But if you're just trying to run from Dad and Sierra, I need you to ask yourself something first." "What?" "If I hadn't walked away, would you have wanted me back?" She didn't answer. Not then. But when we left the cafe, she hugged me. Just a quick one of those awkward one-armed teenager hugs. Still, it was more than I'd had in months. I held onto it like it was a lifeline. The hug from Celeste didn't fix things. It didn't erase the months of silence or the nights I cried into a pillow in a stranger's guest room. But it cracked something open. A sliver of light. A possible way back. But hope, I've learned, is a dangerous drug. It keeps you believing in people long after they've stopped believing in you. A week passed before I heard from her again. I didn't push. I gave her space, like Rachel advised. "She needs to choose you without feeling forced," Rachel said over coffee one night. "That's the only way it'll mean something." She was right, but it was agony. Every part of me wanted to show up at that house and pull Celeste into my arms and beg for another chance. But I knew that wasn't how it worked anymore. The version of me she remembered, the one with answers and packed lunches and plans, was long gone. What she had now was a woman in pieces, trying to put herself back together. Then came the court hearing. Not the final one, just a preliminary motion about spousal support and asset division. But it felt bigger than that. It felt like walking into an arena where the crowd had already picked sides. I wore the same navy suit I'd worn the day I presented our firm's solar storage model to the State Energy Board. That day, I was sharp, unstoppable. This time, I felt like a fraud playing dress-up in her old armor. Grant showed up in a gray blazer he hadn't worn since our anniversary dinner 5 years ago. Sierra was with him, wearing a soft pink blouse, minimal makeup, clutching a leather-bound notebook like she was some kind of executive assistant to my downfall. Celeste wasn't there. I didn't expect her to be. I told myself that made it easier. It didn't. The judge, mid-50s, stern but not unkind, ran through the basics. Rachel did most of the talking. She was calm, methodical, surgical, the kind of woman who didn't blink when men raised their voices. Grant's attorney, a man who looked like he'd learned his trade arguing parking tickets, tried to paint me as emotionally unavailable, suggesting I had abandoned the family for my career. Rachel shut that down in one breath. "My client paid every bill for 17 years, she said. She funded the mortgage, the cars, the college savings account. Her reward for that was to come home one day to find another woman in her kitchen and her husband calling it a reset. That's not abandonment, Your Honor. That's restraint. Even the judge raised an eyebrow. After court, I walked alone back to the parking garage. The air smelled like damp concrete and old paper. I was halfway to my car when I heard footsteps. It was Sierra. "Evelyn," she called out, breathless like she'd chased me down. "Can we talk?" I turned slowly. "I think we're past that." She hesitated. "It's about Celeste." My stomach turned. "She's struggling. I think she's having panic attacks, but Grant won't listen. He says she's being dramatic, but she's not eating. She's not sleeping." I felt my spine straighten. My heartbeat slowed into something cold. "And you're telling me this because?" "Because she won't tell you herself. She's afraid you'll hate her." I didn't reply. I just stared at her, waiting. "She misses you. She cries when she thinks we can't hear her." That broke something in me I'd been holding together with duct tape and denial. Sierra stepped forward, softer now. "Whatever Grant's told her, whatever I've done, she still needs her mom. And I can't be that. I was stupid to think I could." I nodded once. It wasn't forgiveness. It was just acknowledgement. Then I got in my car and drove straight to Celeste's school. She was sitting on a bench near the gym, earbuds in, legs curled up like she was trying to make herself smaller. When she saw me, she froze. I sat next to her without asking. We stayed in silence for a minute, just the sound of students yelling in the distance and the breeze threading through the trees. "I heard you're not sleeping," I said. She shrugged. "Celeste, I know you think I hate you, but I don't. I never did." Her eyes stayed on the ground. "I was angry," I continued. "Hurt, but not at you. You were 16. You were caught in the middle of something you didn't choose. I know that now." "I said some awful things," she whispered. "Yeah," I said, "you did." She blinked, clearly expecting me to say, "It's okay," or "You didn't mean it." But I didn't, because she needed the truth, not the sugar-coated version. "But I also know where those words came from. You were trying to make sense of something that didn't make sense, and you picked the side that looked easier." She looked up at me then, finally. "I didn't know how to stay loyal to both of you." "You didn't have to," I said. "You just had to be honest." Tears welled in her eyes. "I thought if I picked him, things would stay normal, that you'd be okay without me. You always seemed okay." "I wasn't," I admitted, "but I didn't want you to see me fall apart." She leaned into me then, her head resting on my shoulder like she used to do when she was 5. "I don't want to lose you." "You haven't," I whispered, "but we have to rebuild, brick by brick, no shortcuts." "I can do that," she said. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I believed her. That night, back in my apartment, she slept in the guest bed for the first time. We didn't talk much. I made mac and cheese. She watched reruns of Friends. We were quiet, but it was a good kind of quiet, the kind that said, "We're not done yet." And when I passed by her door on the way to bed, I heard her crying softly. But she was crying in my home, with me, and that made all the difference. The next morning, I found Celeste in the kitchen making pancakes. Not frozen waffles, not toast, pancakes, from scratch. She used to beg me to let her crack the eggs when she was little. She'd get shell fragments in the batter every single time, and I'd pretend not to notice. Now here she was, sleeves rolled, flipping them like some Sunday morning sitcom mom. "You're up early," I said, standing barefoot in the doorway. She smiled, timid. "Didn't sleep much. Figured I'd do something normal." Normal? What even was that anymore? I brewed coffee while she plated pancakes with exactly 3 raspberries on top of each stack. That used to be my thing, odd numbers only, because even-numbered berries are bad luck, I once joked. She remembered. We ate mostly in silence, but it was the kind of silence that felt like rebuilding, not retreat. I didn't ask about Sierra. I didn't ask about Grant. I just let her sit in that space with me. No questions, no shame. Sometimes love sounds more like clinking forks than grand speeches. Later that week, Rachel called. "You're not going to believe this," she said. "Sierra's being sued. Fraud charges. Something about embezzling money from a youth wellness nonprofit she worked with last year. My first reaction wasn't joy. It wasn't even anger. It was exhaustion. She stole from kids? I muttered. Apparently, it just hit the local paper. Celeste might hear about it. She did. That night, she came home with the article printed out, folded in her hoodie pocket like contraband. She told me she was done with that part of her life, Celeste said quietly. She said she'd changed. I sat down beside her. You believed her. I wanted to, she whispered. I needed to believe that not everyone who broke something could only break more. It wasn't an apology, but it was honest. That counted. She's going to jail, isn't she? Maybe, maybe not. The system's slow. Are you happy about it? I thought for a long moment before answering. No, I'm not happy, but I'm not surprised. People like Sierra, they survive by performing. They mirror who you want them to be. And when the mask slips, all that's left is desperation. The mask slipped again 2 nights later. Celeste was supposed to be with Grant for the weekend, but at 11:47 p.m., I got a call from her cell. "Mom," she whispered, "can you come get me?" She was on the corner near the house, her suitcase by her feet, standing under a flickering street lamp in the sweatshirt I bought her last Christmas. When she got in the car, her hands were shaking. "I didn't know where else to go," she said. I didn't ask what happened. I didn't need to. But she told me anyway. "Dad lost it," she said, her voice flat. "He was yelling at Sierra. She threw something. He told me to stay out of grown-up business and slammed the door." I gripped the steering wheel tighter. "He's not like that with you, is he?" she asked. "He wasn't," I said, "until he was." She looked at me then, really looked. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because kids don't want their parents to be human. They want them to be constants, and I didn't want to ruin him for you." She cried, quietly, no sobbing, just a slow unraveling. "I thought he was the soft one," she said. "I thought you were the one who left." "No," I said. "I was just the one who stayed too long." The next morning, I filed for full temporary custody. Rachel made the process smooth, emotionless almost, just lines on paper, but each signature felt like a battlefield one. That afternoon, I got a voicemail from Grant. "You think you've won? You think this makes you a better parent? You abandoned her when things got hard." No, I left when staying meant breaking myself to keep everyone else comfortable. I deleted the message. Celeste started seeing a therapist the next week. She came home after her first session, quiet, reflective. Then, while reheating soup, she said, "Did you know Sierra told me she'd send me to boarding school if I ever told you about her and Dad?" I dropped the spoon I was holding. She said she'd make sure I never saw my friends again, that I'd ruin everything if I opened my mouth. I felt fire rise in my chest. "She manipulated you," I said. "I know," Celeste replied, "but I still let her." "You were 16. I was old enough to know better." "No," I said gently, "you were old enough to feel guilty, but not old enough to recognize abuse when it's wearing a smile and offering waffles." That made her laugh, just a little, but it was the first laugh I'd heard from her that didn't sound broken. A week later, the judge approved the motion. Celeste was officially staying with me, full-time. We didn't celebrate, we didn't buy balloons or post photos, but that night she came into my room, crawled under the comforter beside me, and whispered, "I feel safe here." And that was enough. 3 months passed. The seasons shifted. Rain turned into shy Oregon sunshine, the kind that warms your face without making promises, the kind that whispers, maybe things can grow again. Celeste and I were learning how to live in each other's orbit again, carefully, gently. We didn't pretend it was perfect. There were mornings we didn't talk, Nights, she kept her door closed. But there were also shared bowls of cereal, car rides with old playlists, and a growing number of inside jokes scratched into the whiteboard on our fridge. "Trust is earned," I told her once. "Then I'll earn it," she said, and she meant it. Sierra eventually took a plea deal, restitution and 6 months of probation, no jail time. The internet moved on. Her sole family persona crumbled. Last I heard, she was trying to start over in another state. She sent Celeste a handwritten letter. Celeste read it once, then tucked it in a drawer. "She's not evil," she said to me. "She just never figured out who she is without pretending to be someone else." I nodded. That's what makes people dangerous, not knowing who they are. As for Grant, after I got full custody, he stopped trying to reach out. He moved out of the house and into a small apartment across town. We don't speak. Celeste sees him sometimes she doesn't. I let her set the terms. I don't comment, I don't interfere. She's old enough now to see people for who they are. There's something I didn't expect about rebuilding your life. It doesn't feel like building, not at first. It feels like sweeping rubble. Like every day you pick up one brick, wipe the dust off, and wonder if it's still good enough to use. And then one day you realize you've built something else entirely. Not what you had before, not better, just real. I moved us into a new place. Modest, 2 bedrooms, small balcony, big windows. No ghosts in the walls, no memories baked into the floorboards. Celeste painted her room sage green, said she wanted something that felt like peace. She also joined her school's peer support group. She doesn't talk much about what happened, but she listens, and sometimes that's more powerful than sharing. One night I was washing dishes and Celeste came up behind me, held up her phone and said, "Smile." The flash went off before I could react. "You always took pictures of me," she said. "I want some of you now." I dried my hands and looked at her. "I'm not great at photos," I said. She shrugged. "You don't have to be. I just want to remember you like this." "Like what?" She smiled. "Here." I didn't ask what she meant. I just hugged her, tight. A few weeks later, Celeste asked if I'd go with her to a college fair. It was at a local community center, full of rows of booths and flyers and over-eager admissions reps trying to sell 17-year-olds a 4-year dream. She gravitated toward the psychology table. I wasn't surprised. She asked questions, took notes. On the way home, she said, "I think I want to help kids like me. Like kids who feel invisible until they're already in too deep." I nearly had to pull the car over. "Celeste, that's amazing." She shrugged again, like she didn't want to make it a big deal. "I mean, you helped me. I want to pay that forward." She said it so simply, like healing was a baton she was ready to carry. Some nights, I still wake up at highs at 2 a.m. with the weight of everything that's happened pressing down on my chest like wet cement. The betrayals, the silence, the screaming into a void I used to call marriage. But those nights are fewer now, and when they come, I remind myself, I left, I survived, I healed, and I gave my daughter the space to come home on her own terms. We were at a bookstore recently, one of those independent ones that smells like paper and wood polish, the kind with handwritten staff picks and creaky floorboards. Celeste picked up a book about family systems, something academic. I was browsing the poetry shelf, pretending not to cry over a line about resilience. She came over and stood next to me, holding her book like a shield. "Do you ever miss him?" she asked. I didn't answer right away. "I miss who I thought he was," I finally said. "I miss the version of him that made you laugh when you were little. But no, I don't miss what he became, or what I became trying to keep that version alive." She nodded. "I think I get that." Then she added, almost to herself, "It's weird watching someone fall apart when you're still figuring out how to put yourself together." We bought the book. Sometimes people ask if I'd ever go back, if Grant apologized, if things changed, if Sierra disappeared for good. And my answer is always the same. No. Not out of spite, not even out of pain. Just because the woman who stayed too long in a burning house is not the same woman standing outside it now, holding the hose and choosing never to walk back in. If you're listening to this because someone broke you, or replaced you, or made you feel like a placeholder in your own life, I want you to know, it gets better. Not fast, not easy, but better. You rebuild, you protect your peace, you learn the shape of your own voice again. And if you're lucky, one day, your daughter will sit across the dinner table from you, smile at something small, and say, "I'm really glad we're okay." And you'll believe her. Not because she said it, but because this time, you're here to hear it. End of part 6. Thank you. End of story.
If this story made you feel something, anger, sadness, maybe even hope, I'd love to hear what part stayed with you the most. What would you have done in Evelyn's shoes? Have you ever been forced to rebuild yourself from the ashes of someone else's choices? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read them all, and honestly, your insights make the space feel a little less lonely. If the story resonated with you, don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps more than you know. And if you're still healing from something of your own, stick around. There's more where this came from. Thanks for staying with me till the end. Your time and your heart matter here.